All right, guys. Well, welcome to this conversation. This doesn't have a number necessarily. It's just an important conversation. And tonight I have my brother, literally my brother from another mother, Lee Malaulau. Thank you so much for joining me, bro.
Thanks for having me again, brother. You're the more handsome brother here, so it's my honor to join with you. And hello to everybody, the tribe as well. Cool to see you guys.
The tribe. I did a podcast with Lee, and he reminded me that it was number 101. So if you go back into our archives, you will see a podcast with Lee and myself, and we went into his story a little bit, and you'll see the synergy. It was amazing. So you might want to check that out. Podcast 101. Okay. But today we're not going into his story necessarily, but we are going into this conversation of a kingdom-hearted leader. And if you have questions or thoughts that you want to bring up, feel free to put them into the comments at any time. And we're just going to flow with this conversation. So, Lee, let's start with you, man. What is your definition, or how do you view a kingdom-hearted leader or a coach?
Oh, that is such a loaded question, man. We can go real far and wide here. Yeah. If I simplify it, if I keep it very simple, I guess humility is a big aspect of that. Humility, teachability. One of my favorite Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 4 says, by humility and the fear of the Lord come riches, honor, and life. And when you think about it, those three things are what the world is really, pursuing: riches, honor, life. Riches, whether it's the money, it's the cars, it's the clothes. Riches, honor, respect, or fame, popularity, following maybe. Or you think of life, longevity, youthfulness, Thin Lizzy maybe. But riches, honor, and life. And so the world is trying many ways to pursue these things. And Scripture gives us two ways: humility and the fear of the Lord. And in fact, you need both to go together, because really, in order to fear the Lord, have reverence for Him, there must be humility before that. And so when I think of kingdom-hearted leader, there's that aspect for sure. There's a humility, an openness, a desire, and a reverence for Him. And then Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God. And it's one who was driven ultimately by what heaven is saying, what the Father is saying, regardless of what's being said here. So that's my simplistic definition of a kingdom-hearted leader or coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to keep this narrow. But, the reason I wanted to have this chat with you is because I'm watching you kind of emerge into your lane, where God's calling you. I'm now occupying the lane He has for me. And I've seen a whole bunch of people over my last 3 years that I've podcasted, all in their own little lanes, But one of the things I think that's happened for me is that as I built out everything God was showing me, in the last month or so, He's been really calling me to encourage people to start building out what He's put in them. And one of the things I think we have missed, like in terms of kingdom hearted, because the kingdom heart is all about the king and the king's vision and the kingdom vision, not personal empire or personal vision or personal growth, So maybe you can touch on this too, but one of the things I've seen is most people, when they join a gathering or they join some kind of a church crew or anything like that, they end up submitting to a vision at the cost of their vision. And it's almost like 100 people forget their assignment to make one vision come to pass. And it feels like that's a bit of a faulty or an inefficient way for the kingdom to expand. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely agree, man. And I find that's one of the cruelties of religion, is that it pulls us into this cookie cutter like mentality where you have to look a certain way or talk a certain way or be a certain something in order to be a real Christian, whatever that looks like. And it might seem logical, it might seem orderly, because we end up, we compromise our uniqueness, our unique creation, and then we forsake aspects of that unique creation just to almost become clones of one another. And so it might seem orderly, it might seem logical, but it completely opposes the natural expression of your unique creation. So what I mean when I say that is your life is an extension of a creator. So God Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, creator of all things, your life is an extension of a creator. And so every time you are living out your unique creation, every time you are walking out your unique creation, every time you are expressing your unique creation, you are re-displaying the creator God on earth, filling it with His creativity, His wisdom, His glory, and His image. And so I can totally see why the enemy tries to pull us into this cookie cutter like mentality, because it significantly impacts whether or not you and I get to fully experience and express the fullness of our unique creation. And
Mm.
unfortunately, it's just so rampant today. It's very alive within, the religious context, all of that, and it's shutting down a lot of our uniqueness. And when I think of it, God has like the bigger puzzle, if you like, and we're all a unique piece of that puzzle. But it's like we all try to fit into this one hole there, and it creates conflict, friction. When we're supposed to be placed in our uniqueness and our unique spaces, and when that happens, man, you imagine what this nation, this world will be like if everybody just took their piece of the puzzle, went into that. Oh man,
I
it's like
think
it just happens.
Yeah, I think that the key difference there of a kingdom hat is a go hat, and a
Mm,
religion or a religious hat is a come hat, you know? And we've
agreed.
seen so much of the come hat, like come to my meeting or come to my building or come to this thing I'm doing. And so we have like I think there is a billion that profess that they're Christians, a billion, I think 1.2 billion maybe. There's a big number, but I don't know if this billion is going, is going to the places. So we look at Jesus and he's like, go, go, we're moving, we're moving. He seemed to really value movement. And I think a kingdom hearted leader would really value the go in the gospel.
Absolutely.
I mean, we could go so many places here, right? And guys, we didn't plan anything. Like, we didn't come here with an agenda or anything. We just were like, hey, we're going to get on, have a chat on this subject. But maybe you can touch on your story a little bit, bro, because you've kind of been transitioning in the last 6 months, especially. Like, I think I'm noticing shifts. You're probably noticing shifts. Some people may have noticed shifts too. Can you touch on that a little bit? Like, what's shifting for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess everything kind of happened around that mandate season, and we took a significant hit there, lost a lot of things, financially, just everything. And it took us to a place where you're kind of forced to ask some questions that you haven't asked, honestly before. And part of that for me was it exposed areas where I was still independent on myself, like I was still in control of where the finances come from and all this. And yeah, I could probably preach about how God is our provision. And I could put up a nice post and say, hey, God provides. But when rubber hit the road, I was exposed. And so it revealed areas where I lacked that. And it was in that moment where I kind of drew a line in the sand and said, God, I give you permission to be my full provision. And that came from a conversation with you. You're one of the people that I leaned into that time because I realized that everything I was applying before that, principles, performance-based stuff, leadership stuff that works, but in this moment it didn't work or it didn't help. And so I needed a higher perspective, and that's where you kind of said draw a line in the sand, invite him to be a full provision, and from there everything shifted dramatically as well. And we started to see things where like provision was coming in ways. One of the things you said to me was for the next 30 days, write down everything that you get that comes in, whether it's your own wages, whether it's gifts, whether it's things that people give you, write it down. And it wasn't just the task of writing those things down, but what I learned through that and what you said to be aware of is that it's the awareness that you give for yourself through that. And even some of the things you're saying, like, don't be surprised if you get, four-figure numbers, just from random. I remember thinking, oh, it's a bit hype, but we'll see what happens. And bro, it happened. Like it just happened. And so it brought up this whole new reality of the difference between a performance-based mindset or a principle-based mindset versus a positional-based mindset, which you were kind of fathering me into and coaching me into. And that opened a whole new reality, not just in the area of finances, but our personal training business. So personal training business, I've always had mentors, I've always had coaches. But those coaches, mentors was more from a secular angle, if you like. So how to market, how to do this and that. I applied those things, they worked, and it's great. But this whole journey of kingdom or positional based living, it totally flipped the script for me to the point now where our entire um, personal training business has changed to the point now where God is now our CEO. So when we have business meetings, we literally have them with him. And now everything is instead of me trying to do something for God, it's me doing something with him. And so now it's God, what do you say about this business? What do you say about our pricing? What do you say about our marketing? And so even to down the marketing, like the strategy, the blueprint that he gave for us in this rebuilding was, I don't want you to publicly market. Now that was so impractical and so irrational to my natural mind and everything I've learned before, and yet it was the wisdom of above. And since applying that, stepping out, it's scary because it exposes, oh man, like I've got to get out the boat. I've actually got to, I've got to have faith here. but it worked. And it didn't just work to the point where we filled our spots, but even more. And so I'm learning that there is a wisdom here that we've not really understood, and we are seeing the fruits of it already. And now we're just applying it into every aspect of our life. I mean, we could really go far and wide here because it's helped our marriage, it's helped our family, it's helped our fellowship gathering stuff happening here. So we can really go far and wide here. But beautiful things are happening from shifting from that performance based, principle based mindset to a positional inheritance, as you call it. So I gotta appreciate
Yeah.
you for that, brother.
So I remember our conversations, like, and it went pretty deep very quickly. But maybe you can touch quickly on what came up for you as you started to switch from, I'm just working for God, maybe, and I'm working the principles and they're working for me. When you were switching from that into, I'm a son of God, in the kingdom, and I will receive, what came up for you that was maybe like a blockage?
Religiosity first, I'll admit to. It's funny, we point the finger how religious other people are, but man, I was so much more religious than I wanted to admit. So I brought that up, and when I talk about being religious, I'm more. It was still a do to be. I had to make something work in order for it to happen mindset. And we know that when it's about do to be, then you either fall into pride because you made it happen, or condemnation because it didn't work. So that would be the one of the big ones that really came out was my own religiosity there, where I was still treating God almost like a genie, rub the lamp. Okay, I rub the lamp. Now you've got to do your part. Versus now, what I'm really understanding is He's your good Father, and it's His delight, it's His pleasure to give you the kingdom. And you are seated in heavenly places. Everything that is His is yours now in the kingdom. And so I used to have this idea that you can't help another person if your wagon is empty, for example. And I would preach that and I would say that and I'd believe that. Kingdom mindset, and this is one thing you said to me, is that, well, Lee, your wagon's never empty. And that was like oh, that was a big paradigm shift for me, realizing, oh my goodness, here I am trying to produce something for the kingdom instead of realizing I'm in my father's house. Everything that he has is for me, and he'll
Mm.
father me along this journey, but I have inheritance in that. And so that really helped me to understand that part of my faith was a work. Like I was still working it. If I prayed hard enough, if I fasted long enough, maybe I'll get the outcome. But in sonship, in kingdom, it's believe. What must I do to work the works of God? Believe. That's it. And it's
So
so offensive. It's so offensive to the religious mindset because the religious mindset wants for gratification and wants to be able to say, I did it. I made it happen. I made it work. Work, 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 work. But the kingdom mindset or positional sonship is it's not about my work. It's about his finished work, and I rest in that. And now I
Mhm.
just flow through the cool of life with my Father. And it's no longer based about my work and my performance. It's about his finished work and his perfect performance. Not my strength, my ability, his strength, his ability. And I flow from that. And it's one of these things that's very difficult to explain. You can really only experience it. And I can tell you, this is why it's been paradigm shifting for me because now that I'm experiencing it, it's put a whole new light on everything.
you know, um, I remember the early phases of our conversations, and it felt like you were just so ripe, ready to go. And I honor your humility to be challenged and take up a challenge, because I think a lot of times we don't like that. And switching from principle based living to positional inheritance is a letting go of the ego, big time.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who talk about faith, and without faith, you can't please God. And faith comes by hearing, and then we get so hung up on how do I get more faith, but we don't understand that actually faith works through love. And if I
Amen.
know that He loves me, then faith is a byproduct. And the more I'm able to receive His love, the easier it is to have faith. And I
Amen.
think that this positional inheritance thing, especially in the season we're coming into now, where things are going crazy and there's all kinds of shortages talked about and issues that are going around that everybody knows on. Understanding who you are in the kingdom as a son will set you free from all fear, all worry, all needing to work for and produce. And you can just
Amen.
abide in the vine and produce from there. So it's been
Absolutely.
amazing to watch you switch into that. In that first month, how many times did things come to you?
Oh, it was ridiculous. I was probably texting you at least every second day, if not every day. But like, bro, I just got this, money from a stranger, or this happened. Like, it was just, it was insanely cool. It was just so good.
Yeah. So, guys, I mean, we're just covering how if you understand you're a child of God and you look to the King and the kingdom for your provision, it's a total different story than what the world has tried to teach. You know, the Babylonian system makes you work for it, earn it, try and deserve it, make you climb a ladder in a hierarchy for it. But in the kingdom, you grow as a son, you mature,
Mm,
and you mature into more because you're faithful with the little, you get more. But you know, that same faithful with the little scripture on this side, you're faithful with a little, so you're working really hard to be faithful, and you don't know if you're faithful enough and is it good enough. On this side, you are just being you and just
mm,
showing up, right? Diligence on this side is just you showing up in the moment. Diligence on this side is you trying to be perfect, which never happens, you know. And so I don't know how we bunny trailed into that, but if you are listening to this and you're worried about your finances, you're worried about that stuff, learning how to just start to lean into the kingdom as a son of God is going to change
mm.
the game. But coming back here to this kingdom hearted, I guess, leader and a coach conversation, how has this changed your leadership?
All right, so there's a number of things here. I'll use one example. So, for example, majority of people when it comes to social media space, they understand me as the guy who shares like prophetic words, right? And that was a very real season, and that was a season that I had to honor and really steward, and I learned a lot through. Come April this year, and then God pulled that away and says, "Now I want you just to focus on your family, your marriage, and your kids." At the time, I didn't get it. I really didn't get it because it was almost like you come from this public platform to now this concealing, this revealing to this concealing, or this platform to now the table. And I didn't understand it at the time. And what that brought up for me was different things. Like it's amazing how when you have a certain platform, a public platform like that, it's amazing how much that expectation creeps up on you and you don't realize it. And so there was a part of me that felt like, oh, but I have to meet the expectation, or I have to answer to the people. I have to, be this for the people. And it came from a sincere place, but it was also a little bit of, I guess, that performance idea where I've got to maintain whatever that is. But actually, in this, part of it was, I guess, maybe the father really seeing, am I willing to just follow the voice, even though I don't understand it? It seems impractical and irrational. Am I willing to just follow the voice? And so
Mm,
that was a big lesson for me coming out of that through that transition. And then coming to the space of just now being intentional with my family and being the leader of my home and within our marriage and with our children, it's changed dramatically. I'm learning the value of having your own unique assignment, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point. But that
mm,
is really what that's unloaded for us as a family, our marriage, completely different space than a year ago, like dramatically different. But what's also amazing through that, by just following the voice, coming into family, is then it's opened up doors to go to the extended family, meaning the body of Christ. And so now we're having these doors open where we're able to just love and serve and go
mm,
along to a lot of these majority of its home gatherings, and to go in there and be and speak. And then how do you be family with these guys, and how do you walk with people where they're at? And what's amazing is 80%, 90% even of the people within those groups, when we start talking about unique assignment or this unique purpose, the answer for a lot of them is actually family as well. So majority of people I'm seeing and marriages and families, God seems to be pulling them into this place of family. It's,
mhm,
and I don't fully get it now, but I'm understanding more as I'm going along this journey and watching, and it's just been amazing. And so I guess from that initial obedience, from being willing to maybe not hold on to the public platform too aggressively, to just
mhm.
follow the voice, honor my family, really serve and love here, lead here, has opened doors to lead out there, and then the ripple effect of that as well. And there's been some breakthrough for some of these wives and husbands, for example. Like we're seeing marriages just completely change because they now realize, oh, my focus is not meant to be on the ministry out here. Because a lot of them hold on to that. They think, oh, but I have to be a ministry out here in order to be walking with the Lord. Man,
Mhm.
this season he made this say, I want you to walk as husband and wife or as
Mm.
parents. That's it. And I'm seeing that happen a lot. So it's a beautiful thing. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, man, it's so good. This is a big subject, right? Like we could go so many places, like you're saying, but it's really cool to watch a real life example play out for me, to watch you kind of journey. And obviously, through our last 3 years, I've watched so many people come through this, and the pinging and the resting, and then the family changing, relationships changing. The first relationship I've watched change for most people is the one they have with themselves. where they start to rest and relax in who they are. And because of that, they end up doing that with everybody they come in contact with,
Yeah,
The other thing
absolutely.
I've seen about this message of identity and sonship is when someone hears it, it's almost like for them, they're like, I've always known this. And you're just putting into words what my spirit has always known,
Yep.
And so it's buzzy for me watching you move into that, man. I love it. So you talked about this assignment thing, and that's what I wanted to discuss on today is like a kingdom-hearted leader, a kingdom-hearted coach is on assignment from the king, understands the kingdom agenda, and everything that he or she does is led and ruled by that, right? And so somebody put a question on here, which I think we should touch on quickly. It said, but as a body, we do need a group vision. And I think it was when I talked about how individual visions are kind of put away to the side. What are your thoughts on that? You go first, and then I'll share on that.
So what was around?
As a body, we need a group vision also.
Okay. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that group vision? So, like, let's say you have a gathering, and then there's a group vision for the gathering, and then individual visions in there. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I think some of those, I would come back to the two basic things that I see in scripture. One is to seek first the kingdom of God. So regardless of what that looks like, we're seeking first the kingdom. And then number two, it's love the Lord your God with all your heart and love others as yourself. So for me, if those two are kind of the group vision, I'm happy with that. But then, yeah, I guess it depends on context as well, and what sphere of influence are you in, and obviously aligning the vision with that. But ultimately, I would assume that it would be heading towards those two things anyway, seeking first the kingdom and loving God, loving people through that.
So Samantha, we're just trying to answer that question here. I guess what I would say in terms of this conversation of as a body, we need a group vision. Maybe I can use an example of, say, a gathering, and let's say I'm running a gathering here. One of the things that the Lord specifically said to me was, help everybody find their runway and help them fly. And as I watch them fly, the ultimate vision comes to pass anyway. And so a lot of times, if God is calling you to a gathering, you have a part to play there. And whoever's leading that has to be able to also recognize your part, not put you where they need a player, but put you in the position that you really carry, And I think that part gets really dicey because, for example, I have served someone else's vision. I've done that a few times, but they couldn't come and say, Joseph, you need to sit here and serve my vision. It had to be from my own heart, So I think sometimes this gets confusing because people think, well, I'll just go find my own vision. But sometimes God might call you to partner with someone else's vision, but that is still your assignment, your personal assignment, and I think that part can get very, can get messy because a lot of times leadership can go, well, you're good at singing, so you should do this. You're good at that, so you should do that. You're good at this, so you should do that. And it's not the person choosing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it, man. Absolutely. I like how you said that, yeah, if you're playing your part, it naturally fulfills the bigger image. You should have just answered that question on your own, brother. You didn't need me here.
Well, it's good to get different views, But so Samantha, I hope that made sense and we answered that. Like for me, okay, so we run gatherings. I have gatherings, and there are a lot of people that come, and I feel like my role is just to facilitate what God's put in them to come out, And we gather, and I love them, they love me. And we gather around the word, we explore the word, read the word, we gather around the presence of God, we gather around whatever God is doing, but they are never forced or told to become part of something that I think they should do, I think for example, a healthy way that this could happen is I go somewhere and I feel the Lord saying to me, Joseph, sit with Lee for a little bit, get under there and back him up. But that's still not Lee's vision. That's my assignment for that season. And that's the thing that I think a lot of the body has, in the name of submission to someone's vision, forego their assignment. They throw it away. I see it like a rugby team, and every player's got a position. You're good at your position. You were designed for your position. And then you got to learn to pass the ball. You got to learn to keep it moving. So hopefully that answered, Samantha. I think it answered your question there. One more question I think Jeremiah had. So does that mean we don't need to build faith, but just align with our identity? And the byproduct of that is more faith? So I guess for me, I would say it this way. My daughters, I have 7, 4, and 2, and they all have faith in me, but in different degrees because they have different maturities and different level of understanding of the world. But they're not developing their faith by reading about me. They're not developing their faith by talking to my wife about me. They're not developing their faith by trying to have more faith. Their faith is automatically getting developed by their love for me and my love for them. And the more time we spend and experiences we have together and life we do together, they seem to easily have more faith in me because we're journeying, So faith can be turned into this thing where it's like, well, I got to have faith. I got to have faith. How do I get more faith? And it becomes this formula. Or you have a relationship with your Father in heaven, and as you do life with him and you know how much he loves you, faith is a byproduct, and it's not separate from love. What do you think, bro?
Mic drop. Done. That's a good answer.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, faith works through love. Same thing, intimacy. In our last podcast, that was the driver for me in my relationship as well. It was all intimacy, and it's part of just abiding in the vine, and he's the one who grows the fruit. It's not us striving and straining. You think of an apple tree, the apple tree doesn't strive to grow itself. It just hangs on the tree. It just rests. And it's up to the vine to grow that apple. And so same with us. And so that abiding comes to the place of intimacy, just loving on him, being loved by him. And naturally we become like him. 1 John 4:19 says we love because he first loved us. In other words, you and I don't have the ability to love without first him putting his love in our heart or helping us to see the way that he sees. And so in that place of love, we naturally become that same image, and then we become that expression to the world around us. So that's the effortless rest of just being with him, as you say.
Yeah. So that takes away the pressure now from a believer to try and conjure up this faith to see a miracle, Another crazy thing is the Bible says to all has been given a measure of faith. So he already gave you that faith also, so there's so many parts. I think that religion keeps trying to make us work for what God already gave us in Jesus, and instead of practicing and maturing in what we've been given, we keep trying to earn it. And I remember myself 8 years ago, 7 years ago, going through that, and I know we've all gone through that journey to a little bit. So it's easy to hear, but it's another thing to practice. Hey, you're like, hey, yeah, okay, I trust you, Lord. And then tomorrow your job's gone, or, there's chaos, or the world looks a bit scary. And in that moment, really what's being tested is the relationship. But when we are programmed for traditional Christianity, we think what's being tested is our faith, and so we try and work the faith. But in reality, all that's being tested is the relationship, how quickly you're going to draw away, And I think if we understand this is all about us and him and us, then that drawing away thing is not an option. And even though you might feel like you don't have that much faith, it's not an option, And I love that. As you practice, it becomes your norm. And so it's normal for my 7-year-old to have faith in me, that tomorrow morning there's going to be food in the cupboard, that anything she needs, she can come running to me. It's not even like to my daughters, it's not like, oh, wow, you have so much faith in dad. It's like, oh, that's dad. That's just dad. And he's my dad and your dad, And I guess I've seen a lot of people who, when things go crazy, either back off the relationship with God because now they need to have enough faith to come back there. Almost like God left or something because they didn't have enough faith. But this whole journey began when you didn't have faith anyway, So anything you want to add to that? Any thoughts?
No, that's really good, man. It's really good. And there's some cool comments coming through as well. A lot of people sharing, adding their value. It's awesome.
So let's go a little deeper here, because this is the part for me, right? 3 years ago, 2020, the Lord's like, hey, I want you to mobilize my body into their purpose. They are asleep. And I'm like, what do you mean asleep, Lord? And it's like, oh, they're happy to have meetings, revival meetings, building meetings, but they're not happy to go. 10% of the people carry the weight. They do the work. 80 to 90 coast. They have a separate life. They have a Christian life and a home life and a physical life and an emotional life, and they've separated it all. But in the kingdom, it's and, not or, you know?
Awesome.
So I started that journey, and I've seen such an amazing shift in the tribe that God's called me to. But in this last month, I've really felt Him pull me into pulling people to a place where they start building their tribes, you know? And one of the things I'm seeing is this decentralization, where it's no longer the big church and 3,000 people come there or 10,000 people come there, but really nobody is maturing in the fullness of love. It seems to be there's so many pockets all around the place sprouting up.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh man, 100%. And we're seeing it here, here in Poro, Wellington. It's happening, and it's amazing to see. Like you can feel like for so long you're just on your own, you're alone, and it's like, oh, where are they? Where are they, God? And He's like, I've hidden the 7,000 prophets you don't know about, and it's happening now, and it's happening rapidly, very quickly as well. And it's just, yeah, I love how you said it's decentralizing, and we're seeing all the bodies able to participate in this. Everybody's getting everybody's being heard, everybody's getting opportunity to minister and be ministered to. Everybody's participating, and like you said, we just facilitate, a fellowship, a coming together. And what God does through that is amazing. Like we're already seeing some stuff that you just, if we measured it to the world, it would take the world, so many weeks to be able to hit this issue. But in these moments where you just make space for Him to be the shepherd and Him to be the lover of our souls, man, we're seeing dramatic things happen in the moment,
Mm,
just in the moment.
mm,
Because, as you say, we're providing space for it, and we're just facilitating these conversations and allowing people to be heard, to minister, to be ministered to, the body becoming one, like
mm,
just living through that. And the thing is, you have to mature through that. You can't hide in that. When you're in a smaller gathering and we're all having conversation, well, you've got to bring something to the table as well. And you can't hide there. But it's a good thing, because we need your light to shine. We need you to be put on top of the lampstand. And we need you to be a part of how do we help each other just walk and mature through this journey of growing in Him, playing our part, loving one another, being family, and just walking as family. And it's a beautiful thing to see, man. It's happening rapidly.
mm. I think it's important we talk about that maturing part, like what is maturity? The likeness, the nature of our Father, right? Maturity is Jesus. Romans 8:29 says we were predestined to be conformed to that image. And so that is our original intent. And we're maturing back into that space. And I think that when you have smaller gatherings and people are going back and forth, that maturing is so much easier,
Yeah.
and in fact, I would go so far to say most bigger gatherings do not facilitate a real maturity in the nature, I mean, like I've been around gatherings where we've learned how to operate in gifts and prophesy and see healings, and it's all great. That's part of the kingdom, but we've never actually learned how to have relationships in such a way that we have to carry the nature and the likeness of Jesus, I think it's crazy that Jesus is in John 13, 34, I think he says that this new commandment I give you, love one another as I have loved you. And this is his last message, important message, that he wants to love one another as I have loved you. But it's so easy where we could go to a revival service or something like that, and we're praying, we're worshiping, but have an issue with the guy next to us, or things like I love you, but I don't like you. We make room for this kind of stuff. Like we cheapen love. You know what I mean? Like I love you, but I don't like you. Like I don't know what that is. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. That whole family thing has become like a major topic, at least in my heart as well. And it's exposing areas where I wasn't that great with walking with people. Like if we just had one like off perspective on something or theology, I was the guy who'd be like, see you later. Like I can't walk with you. It's so immature. But in this and understanding, family and love, it's the ability to walk with one another regardless of where we sit on a position. In fact, in your disagreements, will I still be willing to lay my life down and love you through that? And
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. And I like what you say, love says I choose you. Regardless of what you do to me, don't do to me, whatever, I will still choose you. I will still love you. And that's been huge for me. And that's been a dramatic change to the point where I'm able to have genuine, loving, open relationship with people that maybe typically in the past I wouldn't have. But then what's coming from that is it's a beautiful thing because there's maturity happening in my heart, obviously, as well, but in people as well, and then together as family. And so we're learning how to walk amidst the different disagreements. Like my wife and I, we don't always agree on things, but we're always committed to one another. And so for us as the body, how can we lay our lives down? How can we love one another despite the disagreements? Like, how can I still love you if you may sit on a different side than me on this? What if we just put those things aside and we uphold him, love first, and say, look, brother, I'm going to still love you through this, and I'm going to still love you and walk beside you because I'm committed to you. And your
Mhm.
disagreements does not mean a disengagement for me anymore. It doesn't mean that it's separatism. No, I love you and I'll choose you. And I would hope you choose me too. And so it's a beautiful thing. But that comes from, like you're saying before, that place of just receiving his love for you, becoming that love, and it becomes this effortless journey where I'm not just biting my lip to try and, love my neighbor, because you can fall into that religious pattern of it too, where it's like, oh, I have to love because blah, blah, blah. No, there's a real place in this kingdom leadership coaching space or in this positional inheritance where love is naturally and organically who you are, and you love people with where they are, and you're willing to walk with them. And so
Mhm.
people may be on another side of a bridge that you're not, that maybe you used to be, but you're still willing to go back and love them and walk them from that place. It doesn't mean you dwell there, but you're willing to go back and walk with them through that place of maturity and growing too. And it's just a beautiful thing, man. And to me, that's what family is really about. It's family. Like, I will love you regardless.
I've had so the last 8 to 10 years, I've had so many people that I've journeyed with, and some are gone now, and some are still here, and we walk through like wars together. But the amazing part of saying I choose you no matter what, and then watching the relationship go to the next level is so beautiful. And that's actually what Jesus has done to the whole world. Jesus has said to the whole world, I love you, I choose you, I lay my life down for you, and now you get to respond. And even the ones that haven't responded yet, he's never pulling himself back, saying, no more, And so I love that. And I love watching this happen. I've seen it happen so much, but now watching it even in your story, it's just exciting for me, man, because it's now spreading more and more this understanding of relational equity. I choose you. Whether you choose me back or not, I'm here. I will walk with you. That ability to not get offended over things and to not push away and distance yourself is massive.
Yep, it's a beautiful thing, man. And I guess that's one of the values I've seen in, somebody who kingdom coach, for yourself, kingdom leader, just that value of I've always got something to learn, and for me to always be teachable and open. And I've learned that sometimes, people be careful how I say this, but it's funny how people who don't have fruit are often the first to give you their advice or the quickest to
Mm,
give you their advice.
mm,
But the people who do have fruit often won't give you advice unless you first ask.
mm,
And so I'm learning to be somebody who would always position himself to seek, fruit from those who have what I desire or living a life, that I desire for myself. And that's one of the values I've found and I guess having relationships with people who are living this kingdom reality and this sonship reality that I'm not yet living but desire and pursuing that wisdom from people like yourself. So got a lot to thank you for, bro, and what you're doing and what you're imparting to many others and what it's sparking down here. Good old Paul P Town, the promised land, by the way.
Oh man, I love it. I love what's happening. Super pumped, super excited. And I guess we go a little bit deeper now into the fact that every person that's listening to this, whether it's a replay or right now, you have an assignment. God has called you for something right now, no matter how good you are or not good you think you are, or how close you are or not close you think you are. God has an assignment for you now. And I want to encourage you to start to think about that. What is my assignment? What is He calling me into in this season? God is not surprised that you're here in 2022, post-pandemic, right? God's not surprised that you're here in this disruption decade, right? He's not surprised that you're here in this time where things are being exposed. You're actually here positioned on purpose. And I think it's important for you to ask yourself that question and ask the Lord that question. What have you got me here for? What are you calling me to? Lee, one of the things that happened for me was I had this Facebook group and there was about 400, 500 people in there. And when this whole purpose thing happened, God started to show me my people, my tribe. And the way He did that was actually pull out my message, right? So the more I knew my message, the more it attracted the tribe. And the more it attracted the tribe, the more it facilitated transformation. And I want to go into these three things because every person in here, these three things are going to help you so much. All right. So, number one is your true message. What is your real message? And so, if I watch Lee's life's example, his message was not just prophetic words. Right? That's a function, but he has a message, and that message actually is still, it's getting honed and it's coming out in the form of family and marriage and bringing people together. It's that message of holistic living. It's coming out, you know. But as he's been doing that, suddenly all these tribes are attracted to what he's saying and what he's doing. Would that be right? Would you say that's right?
Yeah, it's it's
Did
exactly
you
what's
ever
happening.
try to get, when you were doing the prophetic words, and obviously, like, we have this culture of fanfare, right? Like, you give a word and there's a lot of people that like to go amen, 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 agree, da, da, da. But if you ask these people, hey, let's all move, let's take 10 steps towards the kingdom assignment, there's usually crickets. Did you have any of those moments where you saw, like, hey, hold on a second, there are a lot of people who are making noise, but I don't know if they want to move? Did you see any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's very interesting. The very first video I put out, and all of them through that, there was always, I would end the video with practicals. Like the intent was to get us moving, to not just hear and listen and have a clap and then move on, but actually let's move, like let's make moves. And it was very eye-opening for me to see that majority of them were just not willing to move. It was just that very, I guess you could say, apathetic, part of the church where they kind of sit, hands collapsed, and they just, God will do it. Just he'll do whatever he'll do, and I don't have to do anything. And if he wants me to do it, he'll make me do it. Kind of very, yeah. So I saw a lot of that, and it was tough. It was difficult, and so I had to mature through that too, because there was a part of me that's like want to pull out the whip and come on, like you got to move, but that's yeah, not the way to go. So I had to mature through that myself as well. And then, like you're saying, honing in, okay, where are the people? Where is that tribe that I have been designed for? And how can I effectively lead them? And so that whole journey created maturity and character to then be able to do that more effectively. So, yeah, that's very much what's happened, man.
So would you say that you started to see how much influence you really have?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because it kind of came out of nowhere, like it all just kind of exploded really quickly. And I think one of the first things that I wanted to do, I just wanted to steward it faithfully. Like I just wanted to honor, the promotion or whatever. I just wanted to honor the platform as best as I could. And I guess through that, it's developed influence as well, and it's helped me to realize, okay, like I do have a unique voice here, and there is a part for me to play here. And will I fully step into that and fully embrace that and follow him through that as well, regardless of where that goes? So, it's definitely opened up the influence space, but then it's forced me to increase my intimacy space as well, because I got to be ahead of the game of all of that. Yeah.
Mhm. And so as you release this message and your tribe starts showing up, and this is why I think it's important for you guys to hear this, because every person in here, you have a tribe, you have a people group. So obviously we're all part of the body, the wider body. We all belong there. The love of God flows through us and into the rest of the people. But what you realize is, like, if you're a finger, you're still attached to a hand that then is attached to the rest of the arm, and you have a tribe. And I think I have watched a lot of people never fully actualize their purpose because they don't know their tribe. Would you say you're starting to see your tribe?
Yeah, I really believe so. Yeah, to the point where we could probably even narrow it down to, like, couples are a big focus for us at the moment. And it's funny because you prophesied that over me a few months ago, before any of this happened, before any of this leading into family space. And now it's coming to family, and we've been different individuals there, but it's really the couples now, the marriage space, that we've like got a real heart for, and that we're actually finding is majority of our tribal people are coming from, is that aspect. So it's becoming so honed and refined that I'm like, I think this is our assignment. And it's awesome.
Wow. Yeah. And so now, as these couples come in, your message, you are releasing your message into them and seeing transformation, would you say?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And it's causing you to refine your message or to refine how you present it and what that looks like?
Yeah, it has been lately. Like I said, the family thing's been a big thing. So, how do we walk through disagreements? How do we communicate better? How do we lay our life down regardless of offense or whatever? Like how do we shine him in the midst of marriage? Because marriage can sometimes be the most challenging relationship, you have, because you are everything about you is fully revealed, is exposed. You can't hide anything from wife, spouse, husband, wife, vice versa. And so you're really forced to, I've got to really honestly live this authentically. And so that naturally produces maturity. And so I guess the message has evolved a lot around that, just unity, disagreement, communication, laying your life down regardless, and all that comes with marriage. So 100%.
Man, so guys, like this is the reason we are doing this is because you have something to do also, and I don't know how else we can keep pushing this, but this is really our message is it's not just Lee or not just Joseph or not just the few, the chosen frozen, it's the body that need to step up. So all of you that are listening, let me ask you some questions, right? So we're talking about three important things. Right. Number one is as a leader, because you're a leader of yourself, whether you lead in a recognized capacity or not, you are a leader. You're leading yourself. And someone is watching you. If you're married, someone is watching you. If you have children, someone is watching you. If you work somewhere, people are watching you. Like everyone is leading. The question is not, are you leading? The question is, how are you leading? Right. And so I want to put this question to you. Do you know you're a leader? And do you know your true message? So when I say true message, let me say this, right? So for example, if we use Lee's example, he was giving prophetic words. His prophecy and maybe the office of a prophet is a function. It's a function, but it's not necessarily his true message, right? Your message, you are the message. And that message you carry is with you till you leave this place, So do you know your message? So let me ask you this question quickly. Do you know you're a leader? And do you know your true message? Let us know in the comments. Do you know you're a leader and do you know your true message? I'd love to know what you say. Anything you want to add to that while people give us an answer?
There were two questions that really helped me to understand my message or my assignment and where I am now. And the first question was, what are you here for? So in this season, what are you here for? Like, what does that look like? How does that play out? And then the second question is, who are you here for? And those two questions really helped me to gain clarity around what my tribe, potentially look like and how the outworking of that happen as well. So I definitely recommend that to people when they're trying to, get clarity around, where is my position in this season or within, the bigger picture is what am I here for and who am I here for? Those two things, absolutely.
Awesome. And so that who am I here for will be our next question. We'll go into that, but I'm waiting for some answers here. Chanthorn, I hope I said that right.
Yeah,
Learning
Shanthorn.
your
Another
true message.
brother.
Awesome. I'm not sure what need to knock some corners off means. Let me help you guys go a little deeper. What happens when you know your true message is it's not a profession, it's a calling. Many people have a diluted version of their true message and they convert their calling into a profession. And when you turn your calling into a profession, it misses the spark because now a profession is something that you have to take into account other parties. A true message does not. It's pure. It's irrelevant of location. It's irrelevant of who's listening. The message is the message. But when it's a profession, you can't say things. You have to keep your mouth shut. You have to bind things. You can't do things. And when you turn your calling into a profession, you drop your efficiency. And many people have done this. The calling of God is not just to be a pastor, prophet, the fivefold, but the calling of God in your workspace or the calling, like you could be a dentist and it's not a profession, it's your calling. I spent an hour today with the hygienist and you can tell the difference when you're with someone and they know it's bigger than a job. It's their calling. They're so good at it. Like I spent an hour with her. It was amazing. And when I left, I was like, I can't believe I was just with the hygienist. And then sometimes you can spend half an hour with someone and it feels like 3 days because they turn the calling into a profession. And so as a leader, you're a leader. It's important for you to go deeper into what is the calling here. Like I'm a coach, but my coach is just the expression. My coaching is just the expression. There is a higher calling here, which I would like to call of being a mobilizer. And that's with me everywhere I go. Anywhere I am, that mobilizing element of me can't be switched off because it is me. It's in me. And it looks different in different places, but that call, the upward call of mobilizing can't be shut off, you know? And it's got me in trouble a lot of times because I'm in the wrong place. I'm getting wrong people to try and move. So as you guys write these answers, I want you to ask this question: what is the calling, not just the profession? And you want to go deeper in there, because I've met a lot of professional prophets, professional pastors. But when you meet someone who's called, they might not even be recognized, but their message hits you. You know, so just something there to go a little deeper. A lot of comments coming on here. Great. Figuring it out, going deeper. Yes, you know you're a leader. A lot of people know you're leaders and not sure what your message is, don't know the message. Yeah. So I want to encourage you to take some time. You know, here's another thing about when you turn your calling into a profession. When it's in your calling, you share your mess because your mess is your message. When it's a profession, you pretty up your mess and pretend like it was never mess. In a calling, you're messy while you're going through it. In the profession, you only use your mess as a PowerPoint presentation because you don't actually want people to know you, right? In the calling, you allow yourself to be seen and known and heard. In a profession, you allow yourself to be noticed. There's a difference here, right? It's a diluted version. So that's my question to you. Do you know your message, right? The second question, like Lee just talked about, who is your tribe? And how did you put that question? Who are you for?
Who am I here for? Yeah.
Who am I here for, right? Who is your tribe? Who are you here for? Now, when I say this to some people, they're like, oh, I'm here for everyone. No, you're not here for everyone. There are actually people that are not going to receive from you. They're not meant to, because it's actually dysfunctional. If you're going to try and reach 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, you won't be able to go deep with anybody. So God in his wisdom has designed us intricately, right? So this pinky is part of this body. This pinky is connected to the head. This pinky is getting instruction from the same head, but this pinky is closer to the palm. And if we don't understand this, and we don't understand that, yeah, I'm in the body, but I have closer tribes that I am called to move in more unity with. Like this finger has to have unity with the palm to then have unity with the arm to then come all the way. I hope this is making sense. And I think a lot of people don't take time to go, who is my tribe? You know, and do you want to say something on that?
No, I was just going to say, you look like you are popping and locking doing your...
Yeah, maybe I was. But I want to put this question to you: who is your tribe? And there are some clues I can give you to figure this out. You know, but as you get your message and start sharing it, that is the only time you find your tribe. And a lot of times I'll get people asking me, oh, how do I find my tribe? How do I find my tribe? Show up as your authentic self. Show up as your authentic self. And for some of you, as you start showing up like that, you're going to lose people because they're used to the make it look good. They're not used to the mess. They're not used to your real message. But you might lose some, but eventually you will end up getting the very people that you are called to be in connection with. Anything you want to say?
That's awesome, man. You are... I think my house is on fire. I think I can hear a fire engine outside. You're bringing the heat tonight, brother. That's awesome.
Mate, so I want to say this because I'm watching this in you, right? Like I'm watching you going, yeah, man, my message. And as you're honing that in, all these people are automatically drawn to that. And you are now not being another Lee that you think you should be. You're being Lee. And you're refining it more and more. And it's only going to open more doors to the real tribe, you know?
Yep, for sure. And I find it's been more of just a letting go, like, than it has been trying to attain something.
That's right.
So like letting go of, like pride, religiosity, all that kind of stuff. Letting go of the fact that I'm not for everyone. Like as much as the people pleaser of me will want to be, loving and have everybody love me. Like you said, the thing about your assignment is that it's unique. It's not general. So it's for a specific people. Unfortunately, it's not everybody. It's for a specific people. And so letting go of even that, of thinking I've got to, I'm for everyone, when actually, no, I'm not. I'm for specific people. And that's actually great, because then you are fulfilling that service. When you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to no one. Or at least in my experience. But when you just when you're secure in that, because some of you'll be called to the real front line, like you're on the big stages, everybody knows you, you're the most famous person in the world. Well, that's your position. But then what if I'm the guy who's never seen, never heard of? It's just as effective and just as important. And I'm convinced that when we get to this other side of life, we're going to see so many people that we never heard of, never seen, and yet they were in their place of authority, in their place of influence, and they transform lives, like nations, even maybe, because they were in their unique place. And so it's learning to be secure in that and just rest in that. And I'm cool with it. And it's a letting go of
And
pride and all of that comes with that.
I was in a meeting where there was a presentation on church planting, and there's a famous person, I don't want to name the person, but they had planted, I think, they're famous for planting churches, and I think it might have been somewhere between 10 and 40, something like that. And planted big churches, and next to this photo was this little Vietnamese girl. I can't even say her name. And it was like, oh, and this girl encountered Jesus, and now in the last decade or whatever, there's been 50 something thousand churches. Nobody knows her name. And she's just smashing out her assignment in her region, her sphere of influence
Wow.
in
Oh,
Vietnam, So when you just say that, how some people won't even know, it's like, man, she's just on it and no one knows on earth. But when we get to heaven, we will see this little, I
amen.
think something, little 4 foot something girl just ripping it up in Vietnam, or just blew my mind.
That's
But I want to say
awesome. I
something
love it.
on people pleasing, like you touched on people pleasing. We think people pleasing is being generous. We think people pleasing is being loving. We think people pleasing is being kind. But people pleasing at its root is total selfishness. When you look at people pleasing, it's total selfishness because I please you and I'll do whatever it takes to get pleasure, to make you feel
Good.
pleasure from me and me to feel affirmed by you. It's the total opposite of love. And so a lot of times people think people pleasing, well, at least I'm being good. No, no, no. You're being very selfish because you're only doing this thing so that they will approve you, they will love you, and actually give you what you want. So a lot of times we think, oh, I'm people pleaser, so I'm a giver. You're actually a subtle taker. And this is how the world trains us, and we become like con artists because we think people pleasing, so hopefully that opens your eyes for some of you that people pleasing actually is more about you than anything else. And love is the total opposite.
Mm.
So I love that you touched on that. And we all have to walk out of that people pleasing space. I've been there, you've been there, we've all been there. And that's part of that journey. But so we come back here to your tribe. Who is your tribe, right? Jesus was called to a group of people. He didn't just run around to anyone and everyone. Peter had a tribe. Paul had a tribe. Right? Abraham had a tribe. Isaac, Jacob, they all knew their tribe. Right? Joseph, as he starts to move into different spheres, knew his tribe. What happens when you know your tribe is that your people will propel you into your purpose. Right? Your tribe, your people will propel you into your purpose. So let me say this. There are two tribes that every person needs. You need a tribe that you belong to and a tribe that you birth. Right? You need a tribe you belong to and a tribe that you birth. And we don't have time to go into the whole thing, but I want to invite you to a 3-day workshop next week where I will be going deep into all the stuff and we can talk about you and your tribes. But let me quickly touch on this. Like Lee's example, as we connected, hopefully he feels like I feel like he found a tribe where he can belong with me, where there's no judgment, where I celebrate him. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for everything he's doing. He's not coming there to earn anything with me. He's in a tribe that he just belongs. We are one, and through that, by default, he's birthing these tribes, right? What do you think, Lee? Does that make sense? Would you say something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, absolutely. It just becomes, well, you're discipling disciples. It becomes a reproduction of that same. And so it's absolutely what's happening, man. And it's beautiful to see. It really is. And I found that I guess when it comes to assignment, so assignment dictionary definition is that it's a specific position that or task or mission that has been assigned to you by an authority. So for me, it was asking like, is this assignment my positioning or is it his positioning? So really getting clarity on, am I being positioned by the Father or just myself through that? And then like we said before, knowing that assignments they're unique, not general, and also that assignments are received, they're not earned. So it's not something you work to get, you receive it. It's a becoming of what's already been predestined or designed for you. And that natural flow then causes you to reproduce that same in others as well. So it's a growing of the vine, I guess, a growing of this tree of life.
Yeah, man, that's so good. When we talk about tribes, if we look at natural families, we all belong to a family and we're just loved and accepted in a healthy one. We're loved, accepted. We're not just tolerated, we're celebrated. Our birthdays are celebrated, milestones are celebrated. And this unconditional love makes us a healthy individual that then goes and builds their own family.
Mm,
It's no different in the spirit, in the kingdom, where you find a tribe that will love you, accept you, celebrate your mile markers, show you how far you've come. You become so healthy that by default you end up having a family of your own. So
amen.
what I want to say to you is you have a tribe. And if you're listening here, can you have a guess? Who would your tribe be? Right? Like in this season of Lee's, like, man, there seem to be these couples, right? These married couples that are coming around. Who would your tribe be? Let us know in the comments. Who would your tribe be? Meanwhile, we answer this question here. You could go first, man.
Can your message change over time with maturity? In my experience, that's definitely happened. It may have more honed in on a specific aspect, but I've found that the general message has been the same around, yeah, hope and reconciliation between God and man and together as well. But the way that's played out over the years, like it started with myself, just going through that journey, that started with my family, siblings, then it started with my friends, and then it started running youth groups, and it was reconciling and bring hope there, relationships there. Now, as I've become a parent myself and family man myself, now it's shifted to here. So I'm not exactly sure why that happened that way, but I guess that's just part of flowing naturally with the journey of life and being willing to organically grow with that. So I would say, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. As you mature, and your understanding improves, you start to see dimensions and you start to see layers, and so your message doesn't necessarily become a different message, but I think it gets refined. Keeps getting refined on the journey and gets more specific. And I think this law of specificity, the understanding that specificity will yield better results, I think is very important. So, for example, if you say to me orphans, that could be a very wide thing. Like, what do you mean by orphans? Because it's much more specific than, are you just meaning someone without a dad and a mom? Are you meaning a certain age group? Are you meaning a certain nationality? You see, and so the more specific you can get, the more actually effective you are going to get. So if your tribe is the needy in our community, well, everybody's needy in some capacity. What would you define as needy? Like if Lee, you and I walked into a community and we said, let's meet the needs, we would probably do 3 different things because we're divinely designed for these things, right? So
Cool.
specificity, I think, becomes a very, very important element of this, right?
Cool.
So it's something for you guys to think about. I'm always sharing with young children, it comes so easy. Yeah, that's a good sign that it might be your tribe, young children. Children are so important to God, right? And the raising of children is so important to God. I think we sometimes devalue that. Like a mom and a dad who are doing all they can to raise their child is massive in the
Mm,
kingdom.
yeah.
And a lot of times in religion, that is looked at as, oh, well, that's something that you just have to do, but it's not necessarily your calling. Man, like I just want to say, like, I believe that Jesus values the raising of kids so much. It's massive. And I love seeing Lee doing all this stuff with his kids. You want to say something on that?
I love my kids, and they are teaching me things about God that I just didn't know about before, and about myself that I didn't know before. And realizing that with your kids, we teach what we know, but we impart what we are. So they follow your example, and yeah, the world is often changed not by your opinion, but by your example. And so your kids almost force you, at least they force me. I gotta be real, and I've gotta, I've got to be authentic, and I that makes me need him more because I want to do such a great job in loving my kids and raising my kids that, well, he's the ultimate parent. So spending time with him, loving him, he teach me how to love his way, and yeah, it helps. But yeah, I love
So
my
good.
kids, bro.
And I've seen your kids. They're beautiful. And I love your kids too. I want to put this comment up here because I just want to say a quick amen that Lester, you can get help for that Queensland maroon issue.
Amen. Yep.
Just joking around there, Nick. I got you. So let me say the last thing. Now you know your tribe. The last thing is, how are you going to serve your tribe? how are you going to serve them? And that also is a very important element, So I'll go over my example quickly. A while ago, the tribe was a woman named Julie, and God gave me a download on this woman named Julie. I had 8 to 10 pages written on her, what she's going through. I started to carry her in my heart. I started to carry her in my prayers. And then all these Julies started to come into my life and started to walk them through their journey. Right? These Julies were like an Esther, and they needed a Mordecai who was going to nudge them, into their purpose, and I've seen that happen. And now as seasons change for me and I'm going deeper in my message, I'm not just nudging Esthers, but I'm actually nudging leaders. I'm nudging people who have tribes already or maybe are stuck without a tribe. And so for me, how I serve my tribe looks like this: online platform, online coaching, Zoom calls, podcasts, right? Because this is where my tribe is at. And for some of you, your tribe's on here, right? Like for Lee, his tribe is on social media. He's called to social media. And a lot of times that religious understanding can't see that social media is a tool and it can be used, light or darkness. It's just a tool. They just automatically like to turn tools into good or bad, COVID forced a lot of religious people to rethink their position. There were people that told me to get off this online group thing that after COVID are like, hey, how do you do a Zoom call? Like they switched their thinking because they can't anymore. So where and how can you serve your tribe? I think it's very important to answer that question. So what would be your answers? How and where are you going to serve them, guys? Any thoughts on that, Lee?
I guess one thing that's really helped me is just to, as best as you understand your answers to all of these questions, really, go for it. Like if you want to walk on water, you have to be willing to step out the boat and know that your Father works all things for your good anyway. So you really can't lose in it. But that's what's helped me dramatically, is that I'll be willing just to go as best as I understand. It doesn't make me reckless, and it doesn't mean I'm not listening. Like I'm in that place of intimacy. And as long as you're in that place of intimacy, he'll give you the guidance and he'll give you the corrections and the adjustments as you go. But be willing to go and know that as you go, you grow, or you go to grow. And through that journey, it's almost like the view at the bottom of the mountain is very different from the view at the top of the mountain, but it's still the same mountain, but we're just journeying up that. And so as you go, you get a greater vision or greater perspective of things, but you've got to be willing to go. And so what I would say is to not get stuck into the analysis paralysis, and just as best as you understand from these questions, these answers, as best as you know, as best as you understand, just go for it. Just jump out the boat, have a go. And he'll father you through that, and you'll learn things through that. And as you go, things in you will come out. Maybe you've got patience issues or anger issues or pride issues. He'll father those things out of you as well.
Not maybe, probably.
Well, maybe I'm more polite than you. But yeah, absolutely.
I found for me that I had heaps of issues, and as I started to show up, they started to show up. Yeah. I'm just agreeing with what you're saying, man.
Yeah, and they're still showing up. But that would be the biggest encouragement I'll give, is just go as best as you understand, because we can get stuck in that right or wrong thing. And you talked about it recently yourself, Joseph, about that. The root of that is still the tree of knowledge. Stop eating that tree. Come to the tree of life. And he will father you through that. And it's amazing how much you will learn. I don't know if maybe you guys might be like this, but I learn a lot through reflection. Like what the Father's saying to me, I learn a lot through reflection. So looking back, and then I can hear, okay, that was the Father's voice, or that was the Father's guiding. But at the time, I didn't know. I'm thinking, is this my voice? Is it his voice? I'm not too sure, but I'll just go anyway. And what you learn and realize is that we share a lot more headspace in the Father than we think. And it seems that we seem to have so much more fear of getting it wrong than we do having in faith in his ability just to guide us and lead us into all truth, because he's a good Father. And so even your mistakes, he'll bring and weave into his grace. And even in your intentional, purposeful mistakes, if you come back to that place of humility, he can redeem it and he can make it good, because he's a good Father. And so knowing his goodness will give you that ability to go. And as you go, you experience more of his goodness, and it just becomes more of a rest from there, because man, my God's good. He's got me. I can't lose here, so I'm going.
Boom. So, I didn't see any answers. Maybe you're still thinking about that. But those 3 questions would help you identify which direction to go. And then you got to go. And you're going to make mistakes, 100%. And the mistakes help you grow. They are part of your growth, So I love that you said that, man. And that's a big part of I guess what I've been doing the last 4 years is coaching people into movement, start moving, start, like see the comments on here, like
My
yeah, we
man.
must have been
My brother.
separated at birth. So guys, yeah, you got to go. You got to go. So I really carry a passion to make you move. And, like Lee is someone that didn't need much of a push because he was already moving. And I think what happened for Lee is the gas tank that was moving him changed. And because that changed, now the speed has changed, the accuracy is changing, the efficiency is changing, the impact is changing. And it's awesome. So for you that's listening, we really believe that you have a calling that is just as important as anybody else, and it is your time. So those 3 questions, if you start answering them and you want to go deeper, I want to invite you into a 3-day workshop I'm doing next week. I think it's going to be powerful to help you, because you can't do so much in a 1 hour conversation that we didn't expect to go for an hour. But I want to invite you in there, because I think it's time for the body to start taking its place. And you have a position, and I would love to walk with you as we work it out, just like we worked it out with Lee and we've worked it out with hundreds of others. I would love to work it out with you, because it's time now for all the little tribes that carry their unique part in the body to start showing up, so then they can attach and work together, So boom. Do you guys have any questions? Throw them in here. Lee, is there anything else you want to say?
I just want to say how excited I am for the body in Christ in general. Like, as much as there's lots of seemingly doom and gloom going around and media reports and all this and that, man, there is great and glorious things ahead for us. Our best days are still ahead. And there are beautiful things happening, even though we may not be able to see it here, but it's happening. And so I encourage you guys not to get so fixed on the screen down here. And when I say screen, I don't mean like the literal TV. That may be part of it, but don't get stuck on the screen down here. Keep your eyes on the screen up there. Colossians 3:2. Keep your mind on the things above, not on the things below, because there are incredible things happening, and it's happening rapidly, and it's powerful, and it's beautiful. And we're going to see and experience a glorious time together as the bride. And so we need you to play your unique part. Go into your assignment. Alignment with your assignment will bring excitement. We need to bring joy back as well to the body. And so play your part, run with it. And we back you, we support you, we love you, we're for you. And let's go together and really enjoy this journey of the kingdom life with our good Father.
Boom. Good Father. So let me just echo that, and we end with that. You have a dad who believes in you when you don't believe in yourself, who's faithful to you when you're not faithful to him, who loves you when you feel like you have no love for him, when you feel like you're 100 Ks away from him. He's still right there. And I want to say this because of some of the comments that have come on, is that when you make a mistake, which you are going to make a mistake, think about what you as a good parent do with your child. And if you, being evil, are going to always redeem, restore, repair, reconstruct, and bring back your child on the path, imagine God, who is pure love. And so you can't lose. As a believer, as a child of God, you and I are called to be the most fearless people on this planet, because we are also called to be the most love-filled people on this planet. And so I just want to agree with Lee and encourage you. It's your time. Register for that thing. Come into the group. Let's have deeper conversations in there. Love you lots. And maybe we'll do more of this over this next season if you're open to it, Lee. And if you guys want us to, we do more on this on different subjects. So let us know in the comments. What do you think?
Absolutely, brother. I'm on.
Boom. Well, that's us, man. Bless you guys. Love you lots. We'll talk soon.